Door 19, advice for you from two complete strangers. I'm Jamal.
I'm LaShondra.
What's up?
Welcome you guys. If you are just now tuning in for the first time, we welcome you to this channel. And if you are returning, we welcome you also. We welcome you back. So as you know, we have been doing the marriage series here at Door 19. And this is part 3 of that series. And we will start off with 2 key points today that we want to cover. And at the end, we have 2 very, very, very important questions that we want to leave everyone with to observe and to just kind of contemplate on a little bit. But we'll start off with the first 2 key points today. Right? Now, the first one is, why do you feel the need for your spouse or significant other to always do the things that make you feel good? And I will give you some examples of that. If you always need the other person, now please listen clearly, if you always need the other person to compliment you, to make you feel good, or to do the things that you like specifically, if you need those things to continue on in the marriage, then I would suggest that you really take a good look at yourself. Now, this was somewhat covered on the last episode that we did, but it's all about, again, you seeking the fulfillment within yourself from another person. So that once again, that doesn't mean that your partner shouldn't compliment you. That doesn't mean that they should not be aware and sensitive to the things that help you and that make you feel good and that are supporting you and encouraging you, all of those wonderful things that are part of a relationship. But what I am saying is, for your own self, if you find that you begin to maybe get depressed or down, or you feel that they don't love you, or you feel you start to question their faithfulness to you, any of those kinds of things, if those questions arise in you all the time on a very frequent basis, merely because they don't say or do a specific thing for you, then I would say you really need to take a look at yourself and take a look at the relationship. Because it could be, now I don't want to omit this, because it could be an issue with trust going on. I don't know, maybe you had trust issues with them in the past, so now you feel like anytime that this kind of thing happens, then you start to question. So if that is the case, then you also need to, once again, reevaluate the relationship and see if it's something that you both want to continue on in, or if it's something that you kind of have just had enough with. So just be mindful of those things. And because we all do it, maybe you like for your husband to kiss you every morning and he just really forgot. He actually forgot. Then you automatically will spin it another way within yourself. So these are examples again, and if you are aware that you're doing these things, and they will help you in the long term with any relationship that you're in.
Yeah, and I would add, I think we talked about something about this in the previous segment a few weeks ago, or something, and it had to do with your friend or your husband or your partner, evolving. We have to move forward. We have to transform, so to speak. So sometimes it's just that. Sometimes a person starts a particular way, and then as the journey goes and moves forward, they become something more, and sometimes they don't show particular characteristics like they previously did. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't, but it might be like a transition period. So you don't want to never eliminate that particular point. And we did want to stress in this particular information that we've been talking about the last few weeks, we do not advocate any type of abuse. So if you're in an abusive relationship, then you need to get out of it. That's just that. So by no shape, form, fashion are we advocating excuses for people to continue in abusive characteristics at all. And one of them is, excuse me, if your partner is not willing to do the work to help strengthen and beautify this relationship, then you need to go. and I'm not even going to coat that at all. You need to go because they're not willing to do it. Maybe they got a lot of growing that they have to do. Maybe they'll come back around. I don't know, but this is a time to separate. You know, whatever the word is, you need to get out of there if they're not willing to do the work. So we're not advocating abuse at all, but we are saying that there most of the time are practical, understandable reasons why people make the choices that they make, and 99.99% of the time it's just how a person views their world. You know what I mean? Now you guys are in a world together, but in a world together you're bringing in two worlds, so you have to understand that there's going to be work to make this thing work. So
yeah. And then actually it kind of brings us to the next point that we want to cover and make very clear also about being respectful to each other. Now some of these things, they seem like it's, well, of course, we know that, but a lot of people don't. And I know a lot of people don't because of conversations that I hear that people say, being respectful and not putting your spouse down. People do it so much so in a joking way that I don't even think sometimes that they're even aware that that's what they're doing. People will say, well, my lazy husband, he's not going to do that. Then what good does that really do? You're just constantly putting that label on the other. And you really have to be careful even when you start moving into that territory, because I'll say it too, you're starting to move into verbal abuse when you start doing that. Especially if you're doing it often and you're doing it in front of the person. But I'll say even when you're doing it behind the person's back, then what kind of image are you even building up of your spouse to another person? And you wouldn't want them to do that to you. And even that goes back to the old saying of treat others the way you want to be treated. That if you wouldn't want them to say this about you or treat you this way, then don't do it to them. Right.
And words hurt. You know what I mean? And I think what's important to really understand is if a word doesn't hurt you, it doesn't mean that it's not going to hurt them. If you're using a word and you just, you're kind of reacting and you're saying a particular word like dummy. It was funny. I was watching the show the other day, and it was newlyweds, and they were young, and the guy kept saying, they were having a disagreement, and he was like, quit being stupid. That's silly. That's stupid. Now he's probably saying that in kind of a non-attackful way in his own mind, but in her mind, he's just called her stupid and dumb and silly. So those are not good words, period. You know what I mean? And even if you thought you had a word that didn't denote any type of negativity to you, you don't know what that's going to bring in their life, because remember, you got two worlds coming together, and her world or his world might involve words that you use regularly, not hurtful, but they may take them and they're hurtful words to them. So these are all kind of things you have to understand. First of all, any word that you use, anything that's not good is not good. So I'm not even going to try to play games with that. Negative is negative. Yeah. So, but you got to realize that those are areas that can really hurt you and hurt the relationship because of what it means to the other person. And you don't want, like, if you're talking to your friends or whoever, and you are using words like, well, he crazy, he lazy, he's silly, boy, and you kind of not, you're kind of being, kind of funny or but this is what's going on. You're using words, or you're saying things about your husband or about your wife to somebody else, and you're building an image for them, but you're also building an image inside of you too, unconsciously. Yeah. So you're saying your husband or wife is lazy, they're silly, they're stupid, I can't stand when they do this. So what's happening is, we talked about being wise, or last week we talked about date nights and using date nights as strategies. So when you call your significant other behind their back, even in their face or whatever, but behind their back, these kind of things, you're tearing down the fortress that you have to build for one another, because you're putting in your own imaginary vision, whatever you want to say, all of these different words that actually create things around your significant other that you don't like. So that's not wise. It's not strategic, especially if you want a good relationship. It's not a good practice, and you definitely need to stop it for all of these reasons.
Yeah. I mean, those are just, once again, those are two key points that that we are laying before you all for a successful, happy marriage or long-term relationship. And then now we're going to cover two questions that we want to throw out there. And the first one is, what is your fear of commitment? What is your fear of commitment? Do you want to start on that one?
And it's like, we're just this is the good question. We're not trying to answer it for you. You have to answer it for yourself. But just like, why do you fear commitment? What are some reasons that you can think about when you think about committing to somebody that draws up some kind of false discomfort or some kind of discomfort? You know what I mean? Some kind of fear. They talk about fear being a false evidence appearing real. So what is it? What is it that appearance of commitment, what does it bring up in you, and why? So it's something that you should think about, because if you can think about it, if you can identify it, then you can start to tear it down, and it'll start making things a little bit more clearer, because in reality, everything is clear and everything is good. We just have to get away all the gray areas that experience gives us. So why are you afraid?
Yeah, so here are just a couple of points to throw out there. Maybe these are some of your reasons, and maybe they're not. But one is maybe fear of failure. Or do you fear saying that you failed at a relationship, that you failed in marriage? Do you fear losing yourself, so to speak? A lot of people say that they're afraid of, once they enter into a relationship, that they really love who they are, and that they're afraid that they will no longer be that person anymore. Also, which kind of plays into that is, are you fearful of joining lives and families and finances and all of that good stuff with another person? Maybe you're very independent and you love being independent, but you have found that you're also in love with this person that you want to either marry, or you want to maybe move in together, but you have a fear of joining lives together.
Losing yourself.
Yeah, losing yourself. And once again, look back over some of the past episodes that we've done, because we have covered a lot of these issues in there. Even the past part 1 and part 2 of the marriage series, we've covered about losing yourself and ego and all of those things. So go back and look over those. But these are just examples that we throw out there to you, that maybe these are some of the reasons why you fear entering into a committed relationship. Yeah,
and sometimes you haven't experienced a good relationship, seeing a good relationship. Maybe your folks had a bad relationship. Maybe everybody has a bad type of relationship, and you just like, I don't want to get involved in this kind of thing, because I don't want to go down this road, because it seems like everybody that I know, everybody that I see, has a bad relationship. So what we're saying is that's a fear. Those are experiences or perceptions that have built a particular thing in you that makes you shun it. You know what I mean? But it's not true. You know what I'm saying? It's just an experience. So if you can get clear on some things that may be causing you discomforts or fear about committing, then again, you can start to undo it.
Yeah. And so the last question is, what makes a marriage hard to you? You hear a lot of people say that marriage is hard, that it takes time, and we have even said that it takes work.
Right.
But I want to just throw this out there too, that just because something takes work, that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. That doesn't mean that that it's always work, or that it's always struggle. So that kind of plays into when you think of a marriage and you think of it, do you consider it being only work? Do you not think of the good that there is with it, you know? And like you said, with maybe the image that you have built of a marriage is one that's not so good. Maybe you've only seen people who always argue, or people who talk about they're bored in their relationship, or that they never get along, or that they never have fun together, or they don't get to do the things that they used to do when they were married, you know. So all of this, from people that you may know personally, as well as just society, you know, have built this image of what marriage is. And a lot of the times, at least, you know, from our experience, it may be some of those things in there, but the majority of it is not that. The majority of it can be good, it can be great. And once again, that's why we're giving you these keys, so that it can be great for you too, because it doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah, and you know, the great thing about it is, it's, you know, the work is just, and this is serious, the work is just the undoing that life has done to you. So you perceive everything you perceive because this is the specific cards that you've been given, but it's billions of cards that you can get. But if you understand that, oh, okay, I'm in this relationship, and I'm seeing it this way only because, again, this is how I perceive it, you know, to be. But it can always change. You can always perceive differently when you get a new perception or a new experience under a new understanding. So that's all we're trying to give you is a relationship or a marriage is, I mean, it's endless, it's limitless. You never have to be stuck in any form or fashion, and the only thing that keeps you stuck is how you see it.
Yeah.
So if you don't take away nothing that this advice tries to give you, take that away. Take away that we're trying to give you a new outlook, a new experience on some of the old stuff. We don't like giving you cliche answers that we would consider cliche, because it's always deeper than what it really is. You've been married 20 or 30 years, and you know, you feel like you're tired and you're sick of the person. All that's opportunity is for you to see something in a different way. So if you can see something in a different way, start to think differently, it's going to change. I mean, it's going to change literally your chemistry. So nothing is ever just going to be the way it is unless you choose it to be. So, door 19, baby.
That's it.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, so tune in every Wednesday, sometimes Thursday, for door 19. And that's door 19, advice for you. That's the number 4 and the letter U at gmail.com.
Right.
And again, if you get this, if you hit the link, you can go to YouTube and you can subscribe. You know, the more subscriptions, you know, the more we want to get this out there. And it's free, baby. It's free. You know what I'm telling them? It's free. Get with it.
Yeah.
So, until then, see ya.
See you.
Bye.